everyone? Welcome to Inside Monster Jam, the official Monster Jam podcast. I'm Scott Jordan, and today I go one-on-one with one of the biggest stars in the sport. And for that, we go out to Austin, Texas for Bakugan Dragonoid's Camden Murphy. Camden, welcome to Inside Monster Jam.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Scott. I'm all the way out here in Texas. Drove about a little over 20 hours yesterday, so trying to catch up on sleep for sure. But out here in a camper, ready to have some fun out here at Circuit of the Americas, doing a bunch of racing, coaching, all sorts of fun.
Well, let's talk first about your long weekend in Orlando. You and I took part in the Monster Jam Spin Master 10K stunt, where we set a Guinness World Record and awarded one lucky fan $10,000. What was that experience like for you?
Honestly, man, it was so cool. To see where our relationship and partnership has gone with Spin Master is so awesome. To see that we're breaking world records now, we're giving away $10,000 to a Monster Jam fan. It's so cool. It's such an honor to be able to represent a brand like Spin Master and Monster Jam and Bakugan, and to be able to have this whole collaboration come together and to be able to break world records and give things away to fans. It's so cool, man. I mean, I love being a part of this, and it's, again, an honor to represent everybody.
And the night was just beginning for you. You still had to go inside Camping World Stadium and compete. You finished third in freestyle, third in skills, second in racing. You win the event championship. Obviously consistency was key for you that night, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We think our engine is kind of laying down a little bit, so we don't have quite all 1,500 horsepower. So, I was trying as hard as I could in racing, but just didn't quite get it there. And skills, obviously just in freestyle, just stay consistent. I was trying out a new helmet, trying out a new seat that weekend, so just trying to make sure everything was working in harmony, make sure everything was working okay. So it wasn't necessarily trying to go out there and go huge right off the bat, just making sure everything is right. Consistency really was the key to success that weekend, and we were able to pull it off.
Now, you spend the season with Bill Lofthouse as your crew chief. You get Matt DeCanter here, and you go on a run of event championships. So what's that dynamic like going from Bill to Matt?
Honestly, everybody works a little bit differently together. So to learn how you guys communicate and to learn, what everything you say means, it's huge. It's because every driver, every crew chief, everybody says things different ways and means different things when they say it. So to try to find that dynamic between a crew chief and a driver that quickly, like with Matt, it's tough. It really is tricky, But Bill and I had all season long to be able to work together, and Bill was amazing, one of the best in the business. Same with Matt. I mean, Matt made sure Bakugan was ready to rock and roll all those last events for the last couple events, for the year. So it's tough to swap between crew chiefs, but I'd like to think I'm fairly easygoing when it comes to things to try to communicate and figure things out quickly. So it was a blast with those two.
So let's go back in time here to Itasca, Illinois, to little Camden Murphy, running around in school. How does Camden Murphy, out of a town I had never heard of prior to announcing you, Itasca, Illinois, become one of the most competitive drivers in a large sport like Monster Jam?
Itasca is a little town surrounded by a lot of big towns in the Chicagoland area, and I grew up in kind of in small classes in school, so I was always, I don't want to say the outcast, but I wasn't. I wanted to go racing. I didn't want to go play football or anything like that. I wanted to go racing. Racing was my thing. I didn't go out on the weekends. I didn't go to parties. I didn't do any of that stuff. I dedicated my life to motorsports. And honestly, I just kind of decided that it was what I wanted to do for a living. And so as soon as I graduated high school, I decided to pack the car up, drive south to North Carolina, and chase the dream in NASCAR and any other motorsport I could. And, it definitely is a big leap of faith to take, but, I dreamed it enough, and it was a big goal of mine to achieve, and the goal of basically being able to make a living doing something in the motorsports world, whether it be NASCAR, Monster Jam, what have you. The goal was to just do something in motorsports driving. And I've been incredibly fortunate to be able to be racing in NASCAR for the last, 8 years now, and to be a part of Monster Jam for the last 5 or 6 years now. So did I ever think it was ever going to become true? Man, I don't know. I always believed in myself, and I never took no for an answer, but we got here. So I think that's a true testament to if you believe you can absolutely achieve something, you truly can. I mean, I took a big leap of faith, but sometimes you have to do that to achieve the goals in life.
You had mentioned to me, off air that you had nights where you slept in your car to achieve this dream. And talk about those nights.
Man, it's crazy to think back on it. And actually, it's funny. A little bit ago, I was going through my phone, going through pictures and everything, and just seeing some of the experiences I've had in my life. That already at just 26, it's really, really incredible. Some people will say, "Oh, man, I lived out of my car," and did they really? Well, when I say it, I really did. I mean, there's just a lot of people that remember seeing me in the garage area, waking up in my car with a blanket and pillow, and I just believed in my goals enough that this is what I wanted to do, and I traveled all across this country driving through the night just to get to different racetracks, to meet new people, meet more people, to create more opportunities, make more connections, and I saw a picture when I was scrolling through of my pillow and blanket in the back of my car. I had a sport coat with me at all times. I had dress shoes, dress pants with me because I never knew what I was going to be getting into, and I basically lived out of my car. So definitely an experience I look back to, and incredibly thankful that I'm in the position I am in now. But it took those nights of living out of my car and driving all the way across the country to get to where I'm at now.
It definitely humbles you. I did that too many years ago. I packed up my Ford F-150 from Florida and went out to Vegas. And I stayed a couple nights in my car at truck stops. I stayed at some crummy Motel 6 hotels where I would barricade the door. Just to get that. It makes you humble, but it also, I think it prepares you at the end of the journey or the middle of the journey to know what you sacrificed to get there. Does it not?
No, absolutely. I mean, there have been so many people that have helped me along the way with just little things. I mean, the smallest of things, but it went the longest of ways to me. It meant the world to me. So, it really does keep you humble. That was the one thing that I always wanted to be sure that I kept on a straight arrow and never forgot where I came from. All the people that helped me along the way in the smaller levels of racing and everything, I still went back. I did speeches at banquets for lower racing series that I used to run in and help old partners and sponsors of mine to this day, just because they helped me get me where I'm at. So you really do need to stay humble and not forget where you came from, because it can come back and bite you.
How has your family been as far as a support system for you, or when you told them this is what you want to do with your life? Obviously, when you have big dreams and big aspirations and you leave home, it's not easy for any parent to hear. How has your family been with your career and what you wanted to do?
Honestly, overall, incredibly supportive. Both of my sisters, I have two older sisters, and they're incredibly smart, book smart. I mean, they're very, very smart. And actually, one of them lives here in Austin. I hope to see her here tomorrow or something. But they went to school, some of the best schools in the country, got rides to go to these big schools, and here I am, and wanting to go racing, driving circles. And so it was definitely, I think, tough for my parents at first to think that, we got two daughters that are going to some of the best schools in the country, and then we have a son that's going to pack his car up and chase a dream. So I think at first it was a little bit tough for them to kind of really put their heads around, for lack of better terms. But I think once they realized how serious I was about it, they 100% were like, no, we were wrong. I mean, you believe in this enough, and you're doing whatever it takes to be able to make the dream come true. And my parents' biggest thing was always have something to fall back on, and I always tried to kind of have a plan B, and a plan C and a plan D. But no, honestly, once kind of got over that little bit of a hump, which, I mean, any family could be a little bit worried. But once I got over that hump, they've been incredibly supportive of everything I've ever done in my career.
It sounds familiar. My parents always told me to have a plan B too, but I told them I did. I never did, man. It was always plan A, full speed ahead, and that was it. So it worked out all right. Who gave you your first opportunity to drive professionally?
So a gentleman by the name of Bobby Dotter owns SS Greenlight Racing. So long story short, I had been racing these cars for a gentleman out of Nashville, Tennessee, and he had worked with Bobby back in the day when Bobby was racing in NASCAR. And I was about 16 years old, and Bobby was like, hey, man, I like what I see with what you're doing on the racetrack, like what you're doing off the racetrack. I want to give you an opportunity. And at the time, you had to be 18 to race in NASCAR. So I still had 2 more years to kind of just keep racing and try to find more opportunities. And really, as soon as I turned 17, 18, right there when I graduated high school, he was the shop that I went to directly in North Carolina, swept the floors, and did whatever I had to do. I went to the racetrack with them, worked on the cars during the week, worked on them at the racetrack, and it came time for the specific race that we were trying to do at Martinsville, and put a crowdfunding campaign, and Bobby was all about it. And honestly, without Bobby, I wouldn't be where I am today, even in Monster Jam. I guarantee it. Just because he took that leap of faith on me, a kid that, in a motorsports world, funding and sponsorship is the name of the game. And I don't come from a family-funded background, so, I'm kind of one of that 0.1% that is fortunate enough to kind of get the opportunities that I have. And he took that leap of faith and gave me the chance to go and drive. And we did good. And he has helped me make connections in the sport that have ultimately led me to Monster Jam 2. So without Bobby, I wouldn't be standing here with you today, Scott.
Well, who have some of your sponsors been, in that part of your driving career that were able to elevate you and fund you? Because you mentioned, you had to rely on that, which a lot of people do. But who were some of the sponsors you can remember that helped you through that?
Yeah, so True Power Oil, Racing Oil, Steve Naples, an amazing man. He helped me so much throughout my career. Unfortunately, passed away a couple years ago. Car Doctor Jr., a repair shop out of the Chicagoland area. We had Ronald McDonald House, of course, as well. But to be quite honest with you, Scott, we actually did a crowdfunding campaign for a lot of my races. So there's a lot of fans out there, a lot of supporters that I can't thank enough that truly put everything together. There were so many different people that allowed me to do this. So there really weren't one specific person or company that really helped me with it. It was a group of people, a group of companies that really helped this all honestly transpire and happen.
That's amazing. At what point during this did Monster Jam become on the radar for you?
Yeah, so I'd say still around that 2014 mark. I was still kind of looking for that plan B and plan C and all that, and I was in the road racing world doing coaching in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, all sorts of cool stuff, and doing a lot of other various things in the motorsports world, but I want to get involved in other things. I want to get off-road racing and like Pro 4 trucks and stuff like that. Obviously Monster Jam and a couple other various forms of motorsports. And so I just kept kind of throwing things out there, emails, phone calls, just trying to make connections, figure out who I knew that knew somebody somewhere. And then, when it comes to Monster Jam, it took me 2 years to meet somebody that kind of took that leap of faith for me, that reached out to someone, and I can't thank that person enough. Of course, they knew who they are, but it's just honestly that I'd say it took me a little bit to kind of come up with those plan A or plan B, plan C, and stuff like that, but I don't know, man. There were so many different avenues and paths that I was trying to take in motorsports, and still really to this day. I have opportunities to race all sorts of different stuff. I'm here at COTA at the Circuit of the Americas running a bunch of old stock cars and Porsches. I was at Barber, Alabama on Monday running Corvettes, Porsches, McLarens, all sorts of crazy stuff. So, the opportunities are out there, and I'm always searching for more.
Are you able to say who it was that put you into the open door for Monster Jam?
The first name's Dion. So she took she just reached out to the people that needed to be talked to, and just threw my resume out there, just like anybody else, just like the others that had tried to help me in the past, and their email got opened. So I'm incredibly thankful that all came together, that all transpired. So cannot thank her enough.
You go to Monster Jam University, now powered by UNOH. Do you feel when you got there that because of your driving background, you had an advantage over anybody else?
Not at all. Not at all. Monster Jam is a totally different world. Did I think that maybe my driving experience would maybe help me adapt quicker to the truck? Sure. But it is a 12,000-pound beast, 1,500 horsepower, and it's a big elephant on roller skates sometimes. So it wants to go where it wants to go. So it's just trying to tame that elephant. And so I don't think so. I mean, maybe a little bit, but, when I get the chance to go to MJU and, meet Tom, and I had Charlie Pauken in there, John Zimmer, to me, I grew up watching those guys on TV, so I was starstruck the entire time. So I was just trying not to mess up or not to do anything dumb. But my thing was, I was told a long time ago that you need to be presentable. You need to be able to talk to people and be personable. And, I always looked at Carl Edwards, an old NASCAR driver, as one of my kind of role models when it came to that. He was always spoke well. And whenever he spoke to someone, he looked them in the eye. And if he had sunglasses on, he took his sunglasses off and made it a personable conversation. And that was always my goal. Ever since I was, 12, 13 years old, I was like, you know what? I want to be like him. I want to talk like him. I want to be personable. I want to be able to speak to people. And I felt that was kind of the most important thing going to MJU that I really needed to do and show that, I can be personable.
Well, I asked Tom Meents on this show, if there was ever any driver that stood out to him at MJU that he thought really had what it took. And after dancing around the question for quite some time, he finally mentioned your name as somebody that he felt really, had the intangibles to become great. I know learning from him, I've talked to you about it before, was a huge honor for you, but you get a chance to compete against him next season every night. So how is that going to be for you lining up against Tom Meents, every single event for the 2023 stadium season?
Man, it's cool. I did in 2019 as well, and it was just awesome to be able to get a chance to line up against them. And when you beat them, it was kind of just made me feel good inside. But to race against the professor and just hang out with him too is surreal. You know what I mean? I grew up watching Monster Jam on TV, and now I get to hang out with this guy and this legend, true legend of the sport, and that taught me everything I know when it comes to a Monster Jam truck and interviews and stuff like that, and everything Monster Jam. Him, Charlie Pauken, and John Zimmer. I can't attribute enough to them for my success in this industry. They taught me everything I know, and even it was cool with Charlie Pauken. I toured with him, and it's so cool. But Tom is one of a kind, a legend for sure, one of the best of all time.
Let's talk about Charlie Pauken. So 2020, you're in the midst of the most heated points battle in Monster Jam. COVID hits, the series comes to a halt, the sport comes to a halt. You end up, theoretically losing that series championship by 1 point. Do you feel if we could just pick that series right up where it left off and finish that out, that you could take Charlie Pauken and win that championship?
I think so. I believe so. We had a couple of hiccups throughout the year too, which it's my fault too on a couple things. Where it's crazy to think about that throughout a championship series, that 1 point that you might have missed out on in skills or freestyle or what have you, just that one event, that 1 point. That's all it took. That's literally all it took, and all I missed out on at the end of the season. So we were on a roll, on an absolute rail in racing. At the end of the year, I think we finished undefeated there for the last. We won a couple weeks in a row in racing. So if I kept that streak up, I think we definitely could have. But again, Charlie Pauken's another legend and one of the best of all time. So he's got some tricks up his sleeve too.
Well, this past season, you competed with Ryan Anderson, Tyler Menninga, and it seemed like you were always so close to putting a run together. And I think you were getting it done in racing. You were getting done in skills. I think freestyle was kind of where Ryan and Tyler were getting ahead of you in that. So you're basically going to trade them in next year for Adam Anderson and Tom Meents, who are incredible competitors in their own right and can throw it down any given night. I do feel that there's no Ryan Anderson, Tyler Menninga can bring you that, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, 3-2 count, World Series freestyle run where the truck just ends up in the dirt. Adam and Tom are more technical, more clean on that. So you feel like that's going to open it up a little bit more for you to maybe, get that series championship now?
Man, I don't know. Tom is a 12-time world champion for a reason. So, and Adam is a multi-time champion for a reason too. So it's going to be tough again. I mean, I don't see freestyle as one of my strong suits, to be honest with you. I feel like I need to work on my freestyle more and more. And it helped touring with Ryan and Tyler and Bari. They really, really helped me fine tune things. I really, truly believe. They're just absolute wild men when it comes to freestyle. So they do stuff that you just kind of your jaws on the floor. So I like to think that kind of helped me out a little bit, though, touring with them, learning a lot. So I don't know. It's going to be a tough one next year. I'm going to give it everything I've got because, it's been losing one championship by 1 point and then not being a part of the championship and seeing your truck win a championship. So it's tough, and then coming out here and getting third here this year is definitely. I think we're due. So I'm hoping next year we can just absolutely knock it out of the park and come out with the championship in the end. But it's a long, long tour.
Well, and don't get me wrong, Adam Anderson, Tom Meents can throw it down and just leave the crowd with their jaws on the floor. I know that. I'm just saying, after watching Ryan's run in Orlando at freestyle, it's kind of a different ball game. But listen, I'm glad you brought it up. I was thinking about this when I was prepping this show. Was I gonna come at it because we talked about it in the one-on-one conversation? But there is an elephant in the room. I feel it's sitting right here. It's a giant elephant, and it's painted red and yellow, and it's got Ryan Anderson holding up a championship trophy on top of your truck. So I do want to talk about it a little bit. You've had a year back in competition to, get your gearings back, get everything going. You've been competitive. You won multiple events. Has anything changed from your mindset from that point? When you and I talked earlier in the season, there was still a little bit of a chip on your shoulder in that. I could see a fire in you from that. Where do you sit now, knowing that you sat out and Ryan won the championship in Bakugan Dragonoid? Is it still prevalent?
I mean, it bothers me a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I'm a competitor at heart, man. I've been racing for over 16 years of my life, and winning is the number one thing in the top of my mind all the time, and has been for 16 years. So, yeah, it's still there a little bit. But I mean, I'll be honest with you. During that whole tour, I didn't pay attention to Monster Jam. I didn't pay attention to social media. I didn't watch it. I just didn't. And because I didn't want to see my truck out there, and I knew Ryan was going to absolutely crush it. So, it's just like, man, don't make me look too bad, Ryan, So, but honestly, it's pretty long gone and out of me now. I'm over it for the most part, and looking forward to the future and looking forward to what I can do in Bakugan Dragonoid.
All right, well, the elephant, it's actually red and orange. I need my glasses checked. It's red and orange. It's gone now. It's left the room, so it's out there. We'll leave that alone. Let's talk a little bit about Nashville last year. You had the opportunity to drive both in a NASCAR event and a Monster Jam event. Talk us through that weekend for you. What was your schedule like?
Man, my schedule was on. I mean, it was wild. But all that kind of started coming together a few months before that, and ever since I started with Monster Jam, my main goal has always been wanting to do a doubleheader. I've always wanted to race NASCAR and Monster Jam on the same weekend. I think that would be wild. I mean, guys like Tony Stewart have done NASCAR and IndyCar in one weekend, and it's been done before in other motorsports, but it's never been done before with Monster Jam. And so I was like, since I'm the one and only guy that does NASCAR and Monster Jam, I want to be able to just one up that and do it on one weekend. And when I saw that those schedules lined up, I said, man, this is perfect. This is ideal. This is the ultimate weekend that I have dreamt about as a kid. And this is, the ultimate, right? So I started putting some partners together, started talking to some people I knew, and as the months kind of went by, things started to kind of fall back apart again, and nothing really was coming together. And as I mentioned before, NASCAR is really a sponsor and partner game. And to be quite honest with you, most of the NASCAR world is a lot of family funding, and again, I've kind of said that before, and I don't have that. So I don't get to just say I'm going to race this weekend and we write a check and you go racing. No, I have to put the partners together, the sponsors together. It all has to be in harmony, and everything has to work. And there's business to business stuff. There's so many little fine details behind the scenes that make things possible. And I talked to Kyle Busch in the past, and he kind of has some, and he loves Monster Jam. Brexton loves Monster Jam, and I'm thinking, man, well, wouldn't that just be like the perfect tie? Wouldn't that just all work together? I mean, I want to go get rowdy in Monster Jam freestyle. You know what I mean? So maybe let's try to do something there. So I called Kyle up and said, hey man, here's what's going on. What are your thoughts? And he was all for it. He was all game. He said, man, that's awesome. It's one of a kind weekend. So let's work on it. Let's do it. But the other key element to it was the race team. Well, I work for Joe Nemechek and Demco Motorsports, and we have a lot of stuff going on. And we always trying to go racing with Joe in the truck series and, doing what we can in NASCAR, but just there were too many irons in the fire already with a lot of other things going on that we have outside of NASCAR that just timing really wasn't going to work out. However, I started working on a truck. I spent, I probably did 22-hour days for about a week just trying to get what we needed to do, the actual stuff that pays the bills, and then start building the truck to go race Nashville at night. And it all started coming together. But then all of a sudden, man, you know what? We don't have the time. Then we started talking to Bones over at On Point Motorsports, and he said, well, hey, man, we don't have a driver that weekend. What if we just put something together? So long story short, it all came together within, man, I kid you not, 24 hours. It all kind of fell into pieces, or not into pieces, well, it all fell apart, and then it came back together within 24 hours. But, that whole weekend in itself, there was so much going on. I mean, I don't have PR people. I don't have, marketing managers or anybody that does it. I don't have social media people. It's all me. So whatever I do, it's all myself. So, there were a lot of pieces to the puzzle that had to be taken care of that I was worried about at Monster Jam, that was worried about at Nashville. And I mean, we did practice in my Monster Jam truck. I literally jumped out of it, ran to my car, and drove the speedway to go do practice and qualifying and everything in the NASCAR side of things. And of course, the outcome didn't end up the way we wanted it to on the NASCAR side of things. Just it's part of racing, man. Someone got into me and I wrecked. So it's racing. It really stinks, the fact that it was a one-off race and it only happened one time, and everything was perfect, but it just didn't end up perfect. You know what I mean? On the NASCAR side, Monster Jam absolutely crushed it. Had an amazing weekend, but there was so much to all that. I was excited for it, but I was also glad that it was over because it was so stressful for a couple weeks, just trying to put everything together.
Listen, I don't think the outcome matters. I think what you did was an impressive feat that, maybe only a handful of people on this planet could go in and do. So, hats off to you, to be competitive in two different motorsports in the same weekend. That's insane, and that speaks to your talent and your dedication. My question for you now is, even though it was stressful and, you did it, would you want to do it again in the same atmosphere if the opportunity came?
Oh yeah, 110%, man. I'd do it again. I'd do it today if I had to. I mean, it's been my goal to race, to be able to put together a bunch of NASCAR races and have a partner and sponsor that I can go racing a bunch during the season in NASCAR and then be able to still do Monster Jam at the same time. That's my ultimate goal. Obviously the goal was to be able to do it on the same weekend, but I want to be able to do it all the time. I want to be able to have a consistent chance to go race in NASCAR every single week and then still be able to do Monster Jam. So, I'm still chasing it and still trying to make it happen. Again, man, the only thing stopping me right now is just finding the sponsors to do it. So I have many opportunities to go race for a lot of different teams in NASCAR. It's just, got to put things together.
Well, what do you think the future holds for you in NASCAR specifically? Not Monster Jam, but NASCAR. Is it something that you want to, I know you said you wanted to do both, but is it something that you want to long-term see yourself in NASCAR, maybe on a bigger scale?
Man, I've that's the one thing that I've always bounced around with in my head of, if I had to commit to one, what would I do? And I don't think I've really made up my mind with that yet, and I don't think I ever will, because I love them both. Now, don't get me wrong, NASCAR has been the ultimate goal, the ultimate dream. That's where I started this whole thing with. So, I mean, if I could go full-time cup racing, that'd be amazing, but I don't know. It's I don't have an answer for you because I don't have an answer for myself. I want to do them both at the same time. I don't know. I feel like I want to be the Travis Pastrana. I want to do everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I don't think I can give one up for the other.
It's a great reference. Travis Pastrana, Maryland kid like me, you know, does a little bit of everything. You see him extreme sports, Monster Jam, Supercross. He's all over the place. So definitely there's a market for that, obviously. Let's talk about similarities and differences between driving in NASCAR and driving in Monster Jam. What is something you can take from your beginnings, you know, driving these stock cars and these trucks and put it into a Monster Jam truck?
Honestly, there's not a whole lot that I can really translate. I mean, it's throttle control is one of the biggest things in being smooth. You know, that's the number one thing in racing in general is to be smooth and don't make any evasive moves. Well, the problem is a Monster Jam truck, you always have to make evasive moves to correct it. So, you know, I'd like to think being smooth has really been the one thing that's helped me translate to Monster Jam. It's just, you know, trying to make it look effortless. But the problem with that is, I think, you know, when it comes to NASCAR and other forms of motorsports, I have to be extremely calculated with every little thing that I do. You know, when I'm at a road course, if I miss the line, if I miss the corner by, you know, 6 inches, I just lost a ton of speed. Well, with a Monster Jam truck, it's not that accurate. It's not. You don't have to be that precise. And I think that kind of hurts me when it comes to freestyle because I'm too precise and I'm almost too calculated with trying to make sure. Okay, well, I'm going to jump this, jump that, blah 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 blah. No. You're overthinking it. You know, and so I think they both helped me and hurt me in both ways. I mean, you know. With that being said, you know, Monster Jam is very aggressive. You know what I mean? It's like hitting the wall in NASCAR. You know, every time we jump for the most part. So I mean, that's a whole different ball game where you know you kind of have to keep your composure. You know, when you're landing a Monster Jam truck. So there's just a lot of things where you have to fine tune Monster Jam, NASCAR. So they're very close to the same in some ways, but they're, I think, more different than they are the same.
And you had some TV experience with Monster Jam as well. You were on the broadcast team for a little bit. How was that experience for you?
Man, I had so much fun doing that. Riding the cars, we had a blast. I mean, I'd love to get back in the studio one of these days because it was just fun to be able to call a race and call an event right then and there. You know what I mean? Obviously not quite to the extent you guys are nowadays, but just still, I mean, I just had a good time with it, man. I was just bantering back and forth and being a fan. That was the coolest part about it, too, is I could be a fan while I was watching the event, but then just give my feedback and try to explain to the Monster Jam fans and new fans that are watching it on TV that what is going on, what is truly happening right now in this moment. And, you know, that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring in more fans, new fans to the sport. And that was kind of a big job that you have when you're doing TV, as you know. I mean, you're trying to explain everything that's going on, but also keep it, you know, fairly, you know, kind of close to what a normal fan would want to watch. You don't want to, you know, explain everything down to the T for the normal avid fan, but you want to be able to bring it down enough so that the new fan can understand it a little bit more. And I had a blast with that, man. It's cool to try to have an opportunity to bring new fans to the sport.
Did you find that, you know, trying to be unbiased while calling the races of some drivers that you might call friends, was that difficult for you, or were you just able to throw it in? It's a tough part. I know it's tough for every. It's easier for me to do it, but for every color commentator, I know it varies because you have to try to be unbiased, you have to be fair, and you have to, you know, be critical of what you see. How was that for you?
Honestly, it wasn't too bad for me. You know, you know, when it comes to explaining some of those things like independence, for example, you know, some of the independents, they're you know, they might have some troubles here and there, and having the chance to explain it's like, man, no, they're a really great driver. They're just having some truck troubles today, or something along those lines. That kind of helped knowing everybody from a personal level. I feel like it kind of helped me in some ways. You know, we're saying, well, that's not like them, or, you know, no, it's okay. You know, they're just having a truck problem. So I don't think it was an issue for me. I can see where it could be for sure, but I didn't see it being a problem.
It's never a problem for me, my friend. I call it as I see it. You know, as I have to. So 2017, 2019, you're in Pirate's Curse, and then you get put into this brand new Bakugan Dragonoid truck. Do you remember when you got the call that you were going to be driving a Spin Master truck in Monster Jam?
Yeah, I kind of, it was right before I went to Australia in 2018, and I got the call saying, hey, you know, we've got something going on for next year. We don't really know exactly everything that's going on yet, but you're probably going to be driving a different truck. Okay, cool, great, you know. So didn't hear anything for a while. Then I went to Australia, and all of a sudden I started kind of seeing the renderings of the truck and what it's all going to be. And I think I was actually in Australia when we had the warm-up show, I believe, too. So I saw that on the warm-up show, and I was stoked. I mean, the truck was so intricate, and just seeing the different brand, it popped out. And not only that, but the partnership with Spin Master. I'd already met some of the Spin folks, and they were awesome. And to be able to know that I was going to represent everybody at Spin Master was super cool. And you know, the day we announced it, the day I saw the truck, I mean, I never saw the truck in person until the day we revealed it at Spin Master's office in LA. So, you know, I experienced that firsthand, just like everybody else, and I was pumped. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, nothing to take away from Pirate's Curse. It was a great truck. It was a lot of fun. But, you know, definitely didn't have the type of responsibility, though, that I have here driving this beautiful Bakugan Beast.
Yeah, you represent a whole brand now. You know, I know there's a lot of pressure involved in there. There's rewards in there as well. You know, you go to Anaheim, which, you know, Spin Master's right down the road in LA. You win there. You go to Orlando, where there's a huge contingent of Spin Master reps there. You win there. So obviously they know you're a winner. Do you feel any added pressure from representing that brand to have to win for them?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, Spin Master is a worldwide brand, and Bakugan is too. So, you know, you have to represent, and they expect to be on the top, and they expect to be running right there with the Ryan Andersons, Tom Mentz, Adam Andersons. They expect to be there. So, you know, I don't think it was expected to have the kind of debut that we did. I think the debut was spectacular, and I think that really put us on the map right then and there. And that whole season that we had in 2019, I think really, you know, proved to everybody that, hey, yeah, we're here not to mess around. Bakugan is here to stay and here to win a lot of events.
So you were in October. In October, you were in Australia competing internationally again. You overshadowed the highly anticipated return of Colt Stevens into Monster Jam. What was it like? What's the response been like overseas in these international shows now that, you know, we're past at least the worst part of the pandemic? What's it been like?
Surreal, man. I mean, when I went back to Australia to see how many fans were excited to see me. I mean, I haven't been in the sport a whole lot of years, and to see how many people that were excited to meet me and see Bakugan in person was extremely humbling. It was really cool. I mean, to see the impact that we've had, and, you know, putting Bakugan on the map, like we were just talking about, it's truly on the map. I mean, it's traveled the world. People love the truck, and it's cool to have fans of my own that are all over the world. I mean, I as a little kid from Itasca, Illinois, did I ever expect to have fans all across the world? No, not at all. And it's an extremely humbling and amazing experience. And, you know, for example, Armando Castro was there with me too, and, you know, he's a super fan, simply a super fan. Didn't come from motorsports or anything. And, you know, he and I kind of sat there and talked about it, and I just said to him too, I was like, man, just think about where you're at right now. Think about what you're doing. We're all the way across the world right now, driving a Monster Jam truck in front of 45,000 people here in Sydney, Australia, and people know who you are. How cool is that, man? It's such a surreal moment. I have to pinch myself sometimes, and I'm incredibly fortunate to be in these positions and to do this. So, you know, it's just awesome to get to travel the world doing this and meet fans all across the world.
We're living the dream, man. It's amazing. You know, you're right. It's surreal. Sometimes you got to take a step back. In Orlando, over that weekend, I had to take a few minutes to just kind of step back and take it all in, man. It's pretty insane that we get to do this for a living. So I'm happy that, you know, you were able to reach that to Armando as well, because I know sometimes we get caught up in the responsibilities and what we have to do. But let's talk about your work as a philanthropist. You know, you won the Outreach Award for Monster Jam. You spent a lot of your free time, you know, giving to others, which, you know, has helped you build, you know, the reputation of being such a idolized athlete in the sport. Let's talk first about the Ronald McDonald House. How did that relationship come about?
Yeah, so quite honestly, it all started Christmas morning of 2012. I had wanted to get involved with a charity of some kind. I just didn't know who, I didn't really know anybody anywhere really either, but I just wanted to get involved in a kind of a different level than just simple volunteering. And spread the awareness and spread the word and try to get more awareness to the charity and everything. And one of our neighbors back in Itasca, he was a franchisee at McDonald's, had a couple of McDonald's restaurants, and knew somebody at the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, one of the largest Ronald McDonald houses in the world. It's a 16-story high-rise in downtown Chicago. And he introduced me to the director and said, "Hey, man, this guy's got this kid wants to just volunteer, wants to get involved. How can he get involved?" And they're like, "Well, actually, we need some help Christmas morning." And I was like, "Okay, cool, sounds good. I'll be there." And I've got pictures of it too, organizing presents and stuff like that. And ever since that day, I knew that was the organization I wanted to be involved with. And if you're not familiar with Ronald McDonald House, it's they're able to create a home away from home. They provide a home for the families in a time of need when their kids are sick in the hospital, and so they don't have to worry about when the next meal is going to come or where we're going to stay or anything like that. Ronald McDonald House takes care of all of that, and all of the families that are going to that hospital or at that house, they all come together for meals, and there's playrooms and everything for everybody that are going through the similar situations to come together and be there for each other. And that really hit home for me, is to see what they're able to do for families all over the world. And at my first NASCAR start in 2014, I didn't have any large partners or sponsors, like I'd mentioned, so I did a crowdfunding campaign to kick it all off. Well, I didn't have a large partner or sponsor, so I was like, you know what? We'll just donate the quarter panel, the side of the truck, to the Ronald McDonald House, and we'll it's perfect. It works great, And so from 2012 to 14, I always tried finding those ways of how can I do this, and I always carried them on some of my short track cars where I was racing in the Midwest and all across the country. But finally, I was able to have them on the national scale and the national level, and ever since then, I carried them throughout all of my NASCAR career. Whenever there was space, I had them on the truck, and I always volunteered at the Ronald McDonald House in Northwestern Indiana there, and just kept volunteering. And when I came involved with Monster Jam, I had the chance to visit more houses. And I said, okay, well, can I do that? I would love to do that. In every city I go to, I want to visit a different house. I want to experience each house and see what makes Ronald McDonald House special. And the coolest thing about Ronald McDonald House is that every single house that they have, whether it be a 16-story high-rise or a 4-bedroom home in Fargo, North Dakota, each one is there simply to help a family. They're not a big corporation that just seeks out certain things. They really are truly there to help. And each house has something special. They have, like, for example, in Melbourne, there's one of the houses there. There's a train that wraps around the kitchen where kids can go and press a button and the train will start going around the kitchen. And in Denver, honestly, I could go on and on about Ronald McDonald House, but there's so many amazing things that they do for families all over the world, and it's meant a lot to me to carry them throughout my career and to still do stuff for them to this day. I made a stop at a house when I was out in Australia just this last month, and it's cool to be able to see families and hang out with them, and the kids that are going through things that we could never ever wrap our heads around. Every single one always has a smile on their face, and they are the strongest people that you ever meet. If you ever get a chance, you need to go to Ronald McDonald House and just volunteer, whether it be helping with lunch or dinner or an activity, whatever the house needs. You will see that the kids at those houses are the most amazing kids you'll ever meet, because they're incredibly strong, and they're going through things that you can never imagine, and they always have a smile on their face, so it always puts a smile on my face too.
Well, listen, if you could help facilitate that for me down here, I would love to go to Ronald McDonald House to help out, man, anytime. Let's talk about now also you add St. Jude ambassador to, your resume. What's your experience been like with St. Jude?
Amazing as well. I mean, the cool thing about St. Jude is, just like Ronald McDonald House, they specialize in other things when it comes to helping children in the time of need. And, not a single family or kid or anybody there's no treatment, travel, housing, or food that they have to pay for during their time. And none of the research there is, they don't try to hide the research that they're doing to help these, wild and rare diseases. It's all for international knowledge. Everybody can know about whatever research they're doing or anything, but the facility itself is incredible. It's massive, and how many people and kids that they can help at one time is truly amazing. We had a chance to go out to their place out in Memphis and got to tour it, and it was just incredible. And the stuff we were able to do with Monster Jam too, with the texting and donating and everything, and to see how many people we reached with that is really awesome. And it's amazing to be able to support children's charities and to kids are the most innocent people out there, right? And to help them in a time of need is all I really want to do too. That's why I had my involvement with Ronald McDonald House, and why I got asked when they wanted me to do something with St. Jude. I was all on board. So it's amazing to see what some organizations can do.
All right, let's get to some fan questions here, and I'll let you go. Gravy Boat on Instagram. And again, you guys can stay involved in the conversation on Instagram, Scott Jordan MJSX, or Scott Jordan on Facebook. Gravy Boat is asking if you notice any differences in your driving style or the pressure you feel at an event going from a non-sponsored truck like Pirate's Curse to a corporate-sponsored ride like Bakugan Dragonoid. So we touched on that a little bit, but any difference for you at all in competing in those trucks?
Yeah, huge. Great question. I mean, there is so much more pressure you have on yourself. There's a lot more eyes on you now, too, with having a big brand like Bakugan and Spin Master, too, to represent. And, I not only support Spin Master or represent Spin Master, but the fans of Bakugan, they come to our events too, and everybody is a fan of Bakugan. So, I want to make all the Bakugan fans proud too. So there's definitely some pressure when it comes to that, and obviously expect to have Bakugan on the top as much as we possibly can, and that's what Spin Master expects. So I tried with Pirate's Curse, but I feel like those years were definitely some years for me to kind of figure out who I was in the Monster Jam world and what I could really do, and try to kind of lay low for a little bit. But once it came to Bakugan, I knew it was to turn it up.
Eli Steele 35 wants to know if you can name one NASCAR driver that you've ever seen or raced against that you think would make a great Monster Jam driver.
Man, that's a good question. Oh man, I have to say probably Kyle Busch or Ross Chastain, just because they don't take no for an answer, and they just go out there and run as hard as they possibly can, and no matter the outcome, they hate to lose, but no matter the outcome, they're always going to go out there and give it their all.
Well, we saw Kevin Harvick drive a Gravedigger, NASCAR. So it'd be interesting to see, on the other side, somebody else coming over to do that with you. It'd be great to, you to be the trailblazer there of a crossover between those two motorsports. Final question for you from Real Monster Hub on Instagram. And this is a very stat-oriented question. Your rookie season on the 2017 Triple Threat Central Tour was against 6 other rookies and one driver being Matt Cody with just a few years of experience. Did that tour shape your style, and do you consider that an advantage or disadvantage that you've all had to kind of pave your own way on the track together? It's a great question.
Honestly, yeah, man, that was definitely a tough one. I mean, it was we all were making some mistakes together. We were all fumbling together, and to be honest with you, none of us knew what the heck we were doing. I mean, we were all just trying to lean on each other since we didn't have anyone to really lean on necessarily. I mean, Matt Cody had some experience, so he was maybe the one to kind of lean on a little bit for us. So It was definitely very interesting. A lot of fun though, just because we all were so new to it. But our first weekend was a disaster in Nashville. I remember like it was yesterday. I mean, it was just so embarrassing. But I mean, you know, we all have come such a long way. So you know, to look back at Nashville now, we just laugh and you know, think about again the experiences that we've had since then. But that year was a tough one. It was a struggle, but you know, I'm happy to see where I'm at now.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing where you go next. That's all the time we have for this week. Camden Murphy, thank you so much. For all of you out there watching, again, download us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, watch us on YouTube or monsterjam.com. Camden, where are you going to next, man? Austin, Texas now. Where to next?
Yeah, so from Austin, I head to Atlanta for about a day and then back to North Carolina. And who knows after that, to be honest with you, man. I got to look at my calendar all the time. So I know I go to Sebring, Florida here soon. I'm in who knows where, brother. I'm all over the place. Keep up with me on Instagram. That's the best way to keep up with me. But I have to thank all the Monster Jam fans out there, too. This year has been so much fun. To get the Fan Favorite Award, too, was huge. So that means the absolute world to me, to know that, you know, I have the fans on my side too. So if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.
Let me know about the Ronald McDonald House, man. I would love to go visit one of those. All right.
Absolutely, my friend.
I'll see you down the road. Thanks, brother. For you folks, man, I will see you next time right here when I take you inside Monster Jam. See you later.